Dear every coworker I've ever had, don't bitch, moan, and beg to be cut, get off the clock, then sit at my bar forcing me to serve you drinks, 'cause didn't you have to go home? What can I get you? Drunk? Welcome to episode 42 of Behind Bars, Cocked Tales, and Wasted Nights. I'm your host, Greg. I've been working as a bartender for over 20 years, and over those years, I've seen a lot. My goal here is to share some of those high and low lights with you. Quick warning, this podcast contains sex, drugs, and some language that isn't suitable for anyone under 21 years of age, so you gotta have some ID. As I write this, it's currently March Madness. Most of you have filled out your brackets, laboring over who you think will win. For me, it's easy. I always go with Virginia Tech. Because they have such great shooters. Too soon? Okay, before we get started, some housekeeping. I railed against the Texans in a previous episode, hoping the ranch water wasn't a thing. Turns out, it's here to stay. So thanks, Texas and Topo Chico. Well, there you have it. And the recipe for this episode might as well be a ranch water. I was going to say a shooter, but that's piling onto the previous joke and beating a dead horse. Or, well, you know what I mean. So, the ranch water. Pour a half ounce of lime juice into a Collins glass. Follow that up with 1.5 ounces of a good silver tequila and top with Topo Chico mineral water. And enjoy the greatest scam ever pulled by a beverage company. It's a tequila soda with a splash of lime juice, but what the fuck do I know? And if you don't have Topo Chico, skip the lime juice, snort a girthy line of Blizz, and shoot the tequila au naturel. Next episode, I'll bitch ad nauseum about the espresso martini, because where the fuck did that come from all of a sudden? Is it all of the sudden? Because, books. Anyway, I mean, sure, espresso martinis have been around a good long while, but as of yesterfucking-day, it's ubiquitous. I pulled the numbers for last weekend. I personally made 53. What in the actual fuck, ladies? Okay, enough of that. On with the story. It was the fall of 1999, and I'd just returned from New York to do a couple more years in Boston at Emerson. I needed to pile on some credits to do my 4 years in 3, so I needed another internship. Before we get to that, some context. I returned to my barback jobs at the Wonder Bar in Allston and Sophia's in the Fenway, which for those of you who don't know is the West Hollywood of Boston. The club was a multi-level high-end Latin jazz bar located right next to the Ramrod, a favorite haunt of leather daddies and their leashed prey. My favorite part of every shift was when our ice machine went down. I got to go in and get my ass spanked by dudes in studded collars as I carried my ice bucket through the sweaty crowd to their machine that they were all too eager to share. But I digress. I'd finally moved into a brownstone walk-up in Jamaica Plain with the greatest girl I've ever dated. Seriously, I regret every slimy thing I ever did to her, which I'm about to tell you. In all candor, she was my college education. She came from money and New England private schools. She cultured me, taught me there was other music besides hair bands out there. We wouldn't go to movies at Cleveland Circle. We'd see films in Kendall Square. We watched the Criterion Collection. She was brilliant, exposed me to William Goldman, who to this day is my favorite screenwriter. What did he write? Oh, not much. Just Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Great Waldo Pepper, All the President's Men, A Bridge Too Far, the screenplay for Misery, rumored to have rewritten Good Will Hunting, Maverick, oh, and a little ditty you might know as The Princess Bride, book and screenplay. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Feel free to investigate. Most recently, she turned me on to Michael Chabon, who's basically the Mozart of contemporary novelists. Unreal shit. Pulitzer Prize winner, people. One semester, her parents paid for me to visit her at Emerson's Castle Well, a fucking castle in the Netherlands. It was there I met my Obi-Wan Kenobi, by the way, a bartender on the Thalys, a high-speed train that took us to Paris. This was before the unification and the euro. Here was a guy slinging booze at 220 kilometers an hour, making change with guilders, pounds, francs, and fucking dollars. He had to know how to make Brandy Alexanders and fucking exchange rates. I was in awe. I stand still in a building only dealing with the US dollar and I'm still off by at least $5 a night. Anyway, Amsterdam, Paris, Sacré-Cœur, Eiffel Tower, Musée d'Orsay, and I'll stop there with all the amazing shit I got to do and wasn't close enough to being worthy of it. Allison was my conduit to everything a kid from a podunk town would have never discovered on his own. Opened my mind. And she was hot as fuck. She was perfect. So, if you've listened to any of my previous episodes, you know that, of course, I had to burn it all down. When we moved in, there was a hot former gymnast from Worcester, also attending Emerson, moving in upstairs with her boyfriend. We moved in on the same day, and as we crossed paths carrying shit, there was an immediate sense that fate would have us doing it in the very near future. It was electricity and unmistakable. Meanwhile, I just ended 2 affairs with Wonder Bar servers, Monica and Carolina, and I was trying my best not to be a philandering bag of shit. But early 20s me was a fucking morally bankrupt monster. Back to the internship. I was carrying a full class schedule, working 5 nights a week, and needed another internship so I could get into the LA program with enough credits. I aimed for 104.1 WBCN, Boston's now-defunct rock station. It would be perfect. It was literally across the street from Sophia's on Boylston Street behind Fenway Park in the Fenway. I sent my resume and set up an interview. It was easy enough. I had the Howard Stern laser beam on my resume. They basically saw that and asked me what I wanted to do, because this was the CBS affiliate that actually carried Howard in the morning. I was set. I told them I'd like to get into management, so I was hired on the spot. I'd work for credits with the program and assistant program director, meeting A&R people, musicians, auditioning singles, putting them in condoms, which are the plastic sleeves the CDs came in. Yes, I'm old. While marking the timestamp where the lyrics began so DJs could, quote, hit the post. That basically means DJs will be able to wrap up whatever shit they were spitting before the band's singer belts the first note on the track. I got to meet a ton of musicians, including Tommy Lee, #yes. And the job was a lot of fucking fun. Part of my job was bringing those singles the record companies were pushing into the studio during Afternoon Drive, the second highest rated show for any station after the morning commute. It was there I'd exchange quick quips with the afternoon DJ, Nick Carter, on his show, The Afternoon Fiasco, and I could usually crack him up. Back at home, when I wasn't studying, I was avoiding Allison. Something in our dynamic had changed upon moving in. I was usually studying, working, editing film, audio, or video, or writing. I felt like a married couple that had been married too long. I lost the attraction. The fire had simply lost its spark, and we both knew it. It was a tough semester for me, and that's because Emerson College doesn't want you to only learn how to write and shoot and edit shit. They want you to be well-rounded. This included a battery of classes on voice and articulation when you say shit like, Nancy, hadn't the man the dandy candy? So you lose your accent and subsequently someone's preconceived notions about you and what your accent can infer. I also found myself taking an Eastern philosophy class at 8:30 on Tuesday and Thursday in the fucking AM. Guess who else was in this class? Yep, the upstairs gymnast. Fuck my life. Fate. We sat next to each other, and I couldn't for the life of me focus on the fucking Bhagavad Gita with her hiking up her micro miniskirts on purpose. I was usually strung out on synthetic energy as I'd barred back the night before, and my sexual singularity of purpose was easily trumping the virtues of Buddhism. I was exhausted all the time. I actually kept a locker in the brownstone on Beacon and Berkeley, a couple blocks away from the actual Cheers bar, and would sleep in the basement after philosophy class for 30 minutes, then cross Boston Common to attend my next class on media history, which involved fucking digging up microfiche at the library. Don't worry, this is all going somewhere good. Then, after that class, I would work my internship, then cross the street to carry 30 cases of beer up a fire escape at Sophia's, get sexually harassed at the Ramrod fetching ice, do a ton of blow to make it through my taxing barback shift, then go home and not fuck my gorgeous and brilliant girlfriend. Meanwhile, at WBCN, I was working in the program director's office when Nick Carter, who's now on SiriusXM, was holding an ass-a-lantern party for Halloween, where he got listeners to come in and drop trow so he and his cohorts could paint pumpkins on their asses. On my way in to drop off a new band's release, I said that one of the paintings was a fine example of work from the Renaissance, or some stupid pun like that, and the next thing I knew, I was asked to leave the program director path and work phones and occasionally sit in on the show to crack wise and be an on-air, quote, personality, which was way more fun than what I was doing. This became my Tuesday and Thursday routine. Eastern philosophy for 3 hours with a 30-minute break, 30 minutes nap time, media history, make puns on air, and then go across the street, cut limes, and buy blow from the kitchen for the bartenders and I. Finally, it happened. One freezing Boston day, the gymnast and I were smoking on the break when she asked me how it was living with my girlfriend. Honestly, I love that girl, but moving in together took the heat right out of it. "How's living with your boyfriend?" I asked. "Same thing," she said. Then, and I don't know where it came from, but maybe I was just too tired to mince words, I heard myself say this. "I gotta tell you, I'm sensing a ton of sexual tension between us. Am I wrong?" That hung in the air for a very tense 2 seconds. She came back with, "No, you're not." We were inches away from each other. Our breaths steamed in staccato exhalations like linemen waiting for the snap at Gillette in December. "Want to do something about it?" I asked. I know, fucking Cyrano. This is probably a good time to let you know that in addition to all my other shit, I was also producing a jazz show on WERS, Emerson's award-winning radio station, and hosting my own college radio show on Emerson's WECB. This is all to say that I had keys to a tiny on-air studio assigned to me and me alone at the station, which also happened to be on the 3rd floor of the Beacon Street brownstone where we studied philosophy. I was hard as a fucking rock, and I decided I'd read Siddhartha tomorrow as I was approaching Nirvana myself and just needed to get to the Bodhi tree. See, I retained some shit. We ditched class, practically sprinting upstairs, her hand in mine. I unlocked the door, pulled her inside, shut and locked the door behind her, and kissed her hard as our hands were all over each other's bodies. In seconds, we abandoned the mutual feel-ups and set upon each other's pants. Now, as I'd mentioned, it was freezing out. Winters in Boston can be punishing. Wind chill is what gets you. I can remember several ascensions from the Arlington station and walks into the wind where I finally got to class. It took 5 to 10 minutes before I could close my fingers around a pen. The key to surviving this? Long johns. She opened my jeans, yanked my long johns down, freeing my cock from its waffle-walled prison. I returned the favor in kind as we tongue wrestled, yanked hair, and lightly choked each other. This had been a long time coming, no pun. I slid her pants down those perfectly sculpted gymnast legs, spun her a half-turn, and bent her over the mixing board. I slid my finger inside her. It froze up for a second. I froze up because I poked a fucking tampon. Fuck. I was kind of grossed out as I pulled my bloody finger out, but I couldn't stop now. I'd crossed the sexual Rubicon. I scanned my memory. Did I have condoms on me? Yes, I always took them to work at the bar, because you never fucking know, and after all, I was a Boy Scout once. Be prepared. I yanked the tampon out, unrolled the latex down the shaft, and got to it. It was insane, intense as fuck. And over way too soon. LOL. Shit. We kissed a little more as we cinched ourselves up and snuck out of the studio. She asked me what I was doing next. Jesus, she was insatiable. I told her I kept a locker in the student union where I was about to nap. Then I had a class, but if she wasn't busy, I could use a ride to the radio station after that. She had a car and nothing to do, so I was psyched I didn't have to brave the cold on the way to BCN. I slept like a rock for 20 minutes, got up to piss and head to my next class. It was when I got into the bathroom and unzipped my pants that I realized with absolute horror I was covered in blood. My balls, my thighs, my long johns. My cock was fine where the condom was. It was comical. Kind of looked like skiers who get that sunburned around the goggles raccoon mask thing, except it was my schlong. But shit, I was going to have to sit in period blood and learn about the heir to the Lifesavers fortune founding the CBS network for the next 2 hours. Also, if Allison was home when I got home, how was I going to ditch my long johns and explain the blood on the outside of my fucking fly? I was panicking. Why did I do this shit to myself? I sat in my secret crime scene through class. Then the gymnast met me outside the building to take me to the radio station. I didn't say shit. I got there, and it was serendipitous that the first song of Nick Carter's Afternoon Fiasco was named Mud Shovel by a band called Stained. It was then I decided to be even more of an imbecile, but fuck it, I was inspired. I walked into the studio, unzipped my pants, dropped them to my ankles, and revealed my bloodied long johns to him. He immediately stopped the song midway. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. Sorry to interrupt the song, but intern Studley just walked into the studio and dropped his pants, and he's covered in blood. Are you okay, dude? He asked. Me? I'm great. I was just thinking mud shovel, stained, my long underwear. Had to be done. Okay. What happened? It was then I realized I was on the most popular afternoon drive rock radio show that also reached my hometown in central Massachusetts, and there was a fantastically great chance this story I knew I would tell would get to my girlfriend. But again, I'd crossed the Rubicon. It happened this morning during class, I said in my best English accent, which Nick quickly put the kibosh on. Don't do the accent. It's the radio equivalent of wearing the fake glasses with the nose and stash. Besides, I've already named you. Tell me what frickin' happened. thousands listening.